Welcome to lesson number 26. In this lesson, we're going to learn about major scales. And before we do a major scale, I'm going to teach you the first half of a major scale, which we call tetrachords. So if you'll look at your page, first thing we're going to do, write our name at the top. Now read the paragraph here. The early Greeks devised scales which had only 4 notes or tones. These tetrachords, tetra meaning 4, chords meaning a group of notes, are the building blocks for our modern major scales. Now we have all kinds of scales when we play music. The first one that's pretty obvious on most of the songs that we sing in elementary school or folk songs, things like that, are in the major scale. A lot of times we have another type of scale that kind of sounds sad and morose for Halloween or different things like that. A little scarier, it's called a minor scale. And then we have all sorts of Dorian and Phrygian and Mixolydian and all kinds of other scales have nothing to do with you, so don't worry about it. First thing we're going to learn is the tetrachord. A pattern for a tetrachord is ascending notes in a scale with a pattern of whole step, half step. So we know what whole steps are, we know what half steps are. It should be fairly simple. So if I started on D and I went up a whole step, I would have E. If I went up another whole step, I would have F sharp. If I went up a half step, I would have G. So the tetrachord starting on D is D, E, F sharp, G. Now, the one rule that you have to know when you're spelling tetrachords is that you have to use the alphabet letters consecutively. So if I started on A, I would have to use A, B, C, D and figure out which ones of those are accidentals. Or if I start on F, I would go F, A, B, C. Always in the alphabetical order. So, number 1 here, I'm starting the notes to build tetrachords. I can use my little keyboard here to help me name those notes. But B flat up a whole step is C, up another whole step is D, and up a half step is, it's not D sharp because I've already used the name D, so I have to say E something, E flat. So I could, as a really easy trick, is to spell the letter names and then figure out what is sharp or flat. So number 2, F, G, A, B. So now let me figure out. F up a whole step is G. G up a whole step is A. A up a half step is not A sharp but B flat. Number 3, A, B, C, D. Now let's figure it out. A up a whole step is B natural. B natural up a whole step is C sharp. And then C sharp up a half step is D. If you have the mental image of a keyboard and you know all of the note names, you know the enharmonic tones and how the sharps and flats work on a keyboard, then this is probably pretty simple. You probably don't need this keyboard on the page. You can just do it in your head. But the keyboard on the page is there to help you. Now, I'm going to draw a treble clef on each of these staves, not staffs, but staves. Let me just start off by doing that. And my beautiful treble clef. I'm just going to do it 3 times in a row, just so I don't forget it. And the third one. Each one better than the last, or maybe not. All right, then we're going to use the blanks to build a tetrachord and draw the notes on the staff. So on number 4 here, E, F, G, A. Now let's figure it out. E flat to F, use your little keyboard either in your head or on the page here, is F natural. Up a, that's a whole step. Up another whole step is F to G. Up a half step is G to A flat. So now I'm just going to draw those notes on the keyboard here. E flat, F, G, A, flat. So that's my E flat tetrachord. All right, number 5, G, A, B, C. All right, so G up to A is a whole step. So let me go ahead and draw my G. Let me draw my A. So now a whole step A to B. Yep. And now a half step. Is it C sharp or C? It's just C. So my G tetrachord is just G, A, B, C. No accidentals. All right, number 6. A, B, C, D. All right, now let's figure out A flat. Draw that first. Up a whole step is not going to be B. That would be 3 half steps. So a whole step would be flat, B flat. Up another whole step, B flat to C, natural, right? And then up a half step. Okay, that's kind of tricky. C to D is a whole step, so D flat. So there is your A flat tetrachord. Okay, once you learn tetrachords, you can start on any note on the keyboard. And this is a kind of a valuable exercise to do, is just to pick a note on the keyboard and say G flat. Up a whole is A flat. Up a whole is B flat. Up a half is C flat. So you can pick any note on the keyboard and just build a tetrachord based off of that. And I would recommend stopping the video and doing that a little bit before you go on to the second half of the page, because we're going to use those tetrachords to compose our major scale. All right, so we are on the second half of lesson 26. We are learning about major scales. It consists of 2 tetrachords joined together by a whole step. So I have my tetrachord, whole, whole, half, and my other tetrachord, whole, whole, half, and in between, I have a whole step in between. So whole, whole, half, ho, 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 half. So 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half, whole, W-H-O-L-E, wholes and a half is our major scale. So I can build, if I know my tetrachords and I connect it with a whole step, I can build any major scale. All right, so it's the same rule here that I'm using all consecutive letter names. So let's start over here on number 7. B flat, up a whole, C. So either use the keyboard up here or do it in your head. C up a whole, D. D up a half, has to be an E flat. Now, here's my hole in between the 2 tetrachords. So tetrachord and tetrachord connected by a whole step. E flat up a whole is F, up a whole, G, up a whole, A, up a half, it's got to be a B flat. So I just spelled my B flat major scale. All right? Some people have a hard time learning their major scales, but if you know this pattern of ho, ho, half, ho, 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 half, ho, ho, half, ho, 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 half, then you know how to make a major scale. All right, let's keep going. Number 8, G up a whole, A, up a whole, B, up a half, B to C. Now I connect it with my whole step. C up a whole is D, up another whole, E, up a whole, ooh, it's not F because that's a half step. So F what? It's got to be F sharp. And then up a half is G. So this is where learning your enharmonic tones really comes in handy, because you know where F is, but if it's not F, you know it's got to be F sharp. So there's my G major scale. All right, number 9 and 10 are the same thing, except for now I also have to notate the pitches on the staff. Let's start off by just writing our scale down. All right, so remember, ho, ho, half. Let's do that first. E flat up, F, whole, another whole, G, half, A flat. Okay, G to A flat is a half step. Now I connect it with a whole. B flat up a whole, C, B, C up a whole, D, and my last one is E something that's only a half step, so E flat. All right, now I have to draw a treble clef, because if I don't draw a clef, then I won't really know what those notes I'm spelling are. So E flat, F, G, A flat. right? B flat, C, D, E flat. So there is my E flat major scale. Boom. All right, number 10, D. So whole, whole, half. Let's do that. Whole, E, whole, F sharp, okay? Half, F sharp to G. Connect it with a whole, G to A. Then I do whole, whole, half again. A to B is a whole. Up another whole is not C, that's a half, so C sharp. And then up a half, D. I'm moving pretty quick here, okay? You may have to stop the video and like figure these things out with a keyboard in front of you, either on the piano or use the little keyboard that's on this page to figure out where your wholes and halves are. But getting used to spelling wholes and halves, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, and naming those notes, then you can build your major scale. All right, let's do the last thing, which is to draw my treble clef. If I didn't put a treble clef, none of these notes would be right. And draw my notes. So a D, I'm going to start low. Okay, D below the staff. E, easy. This is pretty simple. All I'm doing is going up every note and only drawing the accidentals when they're necessary. And then you have a D major scale. So you know how to create a major scale. So what I would do with this lesson is take it in two parts. First part, get really used to naming tetrachords, okay? Nail any key that I give you. If I said D, you know that D, E, F sharp, G is your tetrachord. If I said A, B, C sharp, D, because you know that whole, whole, half pattern, you can name any tetrachord starting on any note. When you get really used to that, then building your major scale, tetrachord, whole step, tetrachord, becomes really easy. All right, it's just two tetrachords put together with a whole step, and that's your major scale. Very, very, very important, because all of our music, not all of our music, a lot of our music uses major scales, and the more and the better that you know your major scales, the easier it is to sight read any music, because they all use those major scales. All right? All right, so if you've got that down, I'll join you in lesson number 27.